they can't believe what they're seeing, but they can, because it's true.
So this footage you saw is different than the footage that you see has been released by the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, because I've watched it several times, and it's not the same. So I definitely saw different footage during those 2004 events of a different object by far. The object that I saw was a flying saucer shape, not a Tic Tac. A flying saucer shape, not a Tic Tac.
Wow, listen to that. That was from Trevor talking with Jeremy Corbell. Trevor was a petty officer 3rd class. He worked as a radar operator on the Princeton, and he says he was there on 14 November 2004 when Commander Fravor intercepted the Tic Tac, or he was on the ship. And very interesting, he says that he saw another object, and that object was not a Tic Tac, Listen to this.
You don't believe this saucer technology is ours?
Definitely not. Maybe we are experimenting with stuff like that, but yeah, I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
It's the common understanding of the people you talked with that this is not human technology.
Yeah, no. Especially aircraft going in and out of the water.
Out of the water?
Correct. I was seeing things on the radar. I just remember the one day where it was very obvious that something was going on in the top left side of that box, operating box. Because we all have our own specific boxes that we do circles in. I just thought it was suspicious. I mean, with all the experience and the things that I've seen.
And so we're talking about 2004 on the Nimitz.
Mm-hmm. I was senior on Chibital. I was one of the senior people on air radar. I was in charge of scene anchor, low vis, supply PO.
You were in charge of an aspect of radar operations on the Nimitz during that UFO event.
Correct, yes. I was part of an air watch team, yes.
In 2004, between November 10th through November 14th, when there was a whole series of events, there was a crescendo. Commander David Fravor and the flight group that went after him came back with footage of these events and came back on board. But your experience was a little different. You were in a secure radar room and started to notice something strange, and you were the first to notice it.
Yeah, we were in CDC.
What is that?
Combat Direction Center, what they call, quote-unquote, the heart of the ship.
It's a normal day, and all of a sudden, what happens?
You just start seeing things in that top left corner of the box, start seeing things blip in and out. You just see something chilling there for a little bit, and then boom, it's gone. And then it's over here in a different area of that corner. It's like flashing. It's solid, then it's gone, then it moves to the left or the right. So it keeps doing that, like it's moving around. It's, there's activity going on. Thinking to myself, like, what the hell is going on? I let my supervisors know what's going on, and they said, okay. It was no big deal. You would mark aircraft, whatever they were, you would mark them. I couldn't do it because that object or whatever that was flipping in and out, I couldn't tag it. So they basically ignored it my whole watch. At least that's what I know. You know what I mean? Maybe they knew something. I don't know.
So Trevor's basically out there supporting. He's in charge of air radar. So he's basically a radar controller, talking to pilots or directing in areas. And he sees these contacts, right, that seem very strange to him. And they're moving around. So what he sees is activity, is what he mentions. These contacts moving faster than he can tag. So normally, in my limited understanding, is you would go and tag these contacts and say, hey, that is a contact. They can start trying to determine if it's identification. But he couldn't even do that, right? Because these things are moving too much. When he goes to click on it, it would actually be gone. He brings it up to his superiors. They say, okay, but they don't say anything back to him. Okay, so he doesn't know what's going on.
And you can't tell if it was multiple objects?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you that.
How many anomalous targets did you see during that course of the beginning of observing this on your radar?
I mean, I'm on watch 6 to 8 hours, so the whole time I was on watch.
Is this the day that the whole ship became alerted that evening that pilots came in with footage?
The only thing I could tell you is that, yes, it is that day. I'll never forget that day, the rest of my life. I gave my pass down, the end of my watch, I gave my pass down, and I passed down that activity. And I passed down that activity one specific person, too. And that one specific person is the one that called me to come up and look at the video.
You were relieved of your command in the afternoon between 11 a.m. and 1 p.m., but it was that day, November 14th, 2004, when Commander David Fravor came back and the flight after him with footage, and that spread like wildfire across the ship that they had caught something, the UFOs. But something else happened. So you are relieved of your command. You go back to your berthing. In being relieved of your command, you pass the information forward to somebody, and in an unusual move, you were called to view some footage because I guess they felt like they owed you that much for being the first to actually see and try to target these things. So can you explain to me, you're in your berthing, what exactly happens?
Get a phone call. I didn't think nothing of it. So I get the phone. He's like, dude, you got to get up here right now and check this out. He goes, you're right. I didn't run, but I hauled ass up to CDC. I got up there, and sure enough, they brought me over, sat down, watched the video. I watched it with a few officers, a couple that were, pilots, and, a few that weren't. Many of these people have had, eons in the Navy. So, yeah, we're just sitting there watching the video and slow-moing the video, watching it several times.
You've already said a couple times that you have tried to dig into this. You've tried to get other people involved in that day to talk to you. People seem hesitant or resistant to talk about this event. Why is that?
Great question. I don't know. I know the one guy is, he's a patriot, I don't know if he feels like he's going against the government or his country. I don't know. I did talk to a female. Lots of activity going on. I don't touch the computer. I don't touch any of that stuff. They're sitting there showing me what's going on. And it's already downloaded.
So Trevor's called in. I believe he's called probably by Kevin Day or someone that works with him in the radar, above him in the radar section. He goes up to the room. He goes into the CDC, says there's a few pilots there. There's some other non-pilots. He says all officers is what it sounded like to me. And then he watched the actual video. So he watches the video. Let's see what he says here.
SIPRNet is a secured, secret, downloaded already to that net.
The video was downloaded to that net.
Yeah, the one that I saw, yeah. When I came in there, I didn't know any of that. You know what I mean? I had no clue until a month or so ago that the pilot actually came in there with footage. So I think the footage that I saw, I'm guessing it's got to be from underneath the nose of the F-18.
They quickly uploaded this to SIPRNet, and the footage you saw, you describe it very differently than what is out there about the events. What do you see on the screen?
You can see that the F-18s are moving, and you see this object mimic the F-18s. This object had shot basically from the ocean up. You could see that. That object made a couple different quick maneuvers. So if the F-18 made a banked left, it mocked the F-18s every time.
Wow, listen to that. So Trevor says he's sitting there in the CDC. He watches this video, and he sees the object comes out of the ocean, so it comes out of the water. So there's video of that, right? That would be pretty nice to see. And then he sees that it's moving back and forth in relation to the F-18. So there's some sort of motion there. But very interesting to me.
Describing the object mirroring the pilot, so actually mirroring the movements, like mocking the movements. It was outpacing our best fighter planes.
Oh, easy. Oh, my God, yeah. The last part of the video that I remember is that this object, if you're looking at the screen, it went left, and then it banked straight up. I mean, it was insane. I couldn't even explain, it just went to the left really fast and went boom, went straight up. And I know this was on the SIPRNet because we slowed it down. They slowed it down by frame, basically in slow-mo. And you could see where this thing, it doesn't even exist. It skips time, where it's that fast that you cannot see this object for a period of a couple frames. And then it just, boom, it goes up. And I remember the officer saying, there's nothing on this planet that can do that. It's not possible. The aircraft would be in pieces. How many G's is that to pull up like that? It's just not possible.
It's a lot of G's. I'll show you here in a second how many G's that could be. But an amazing interview from Jeremy Corbell. Thank you, Jeremy, for getting this done, and for Trevor for speaking out as the radar operator. Interesting for me is that it looked just like a normal flying saucer coming out of the ocean. For the actual G's now, we can go to this paper. This paper is by Kevin Knuth, Robert Powell, and Peter Reale. This is back in 2019, and this is a peer-reviewed paper. So peer-reviewed paper about UAPs, about the Nimitz engagement, and another engagement here. So great work from Kevin Knuth. If you look at the very end of this paper, you see funding. This research received no external funding, so these guys funded it on their own dime and their own time. So thank you, gentlemen, for doing that. So if we go to the Nimitz encounters here, this section, 2004, on 14 November 2004, the U.S. Navy's Carrier Strike Group 11, which includes the USS Nimitz, nuclear aircraft carrier, and the Ticonderoga class guided missile cruiser USS Princeton, was conducting training exercises off the coast of Southern California when the Princeton's radar systems detected as many as 20 anomalous aerial vehicles, which could not be identified. Those were the contacts that Trevor was talking about. Couldn't be identified. He couldn't lock them to actually tag them, start any sort of identification train. The UAVs were entering the training area and were deemed a safety hazard to the upcoming exercise. Yeah, it sounds like they were there for a while and notification was brought up to these guys. And that is when the captain of the USS Princeton ordered an interception of the two F-18 Super Hornet jets. And that's where we get the David Fravor intercept. You can reference my videos in the past. I have multiple videos on that specific engagement. For this video, though, interesting to me, that Senior Chief Operations Specialist, Kevin Day, he had an important role. He is a Top Gun graduate. He had an important role as leading the USS Princeton. The USS Princeton is in charge of doing air defense protection for the strike group. So that's why they're integrating with the fighters. The Princeton was equipped with the Spy-1 radar system, which provided situational awareness of the surrounding airspace. This Spy-1 is a brand new system that they installed, cutting edge, and it had ASA technology, so active electronically scanned array technology. The main incident that we're talking about occurred on November 14th, 2004. But several days earlier, radar operators on the USS Princeton were detecting UAPs appearing on radar at about 80,000 plus feet altitude to the north of the group in the vicinity of Santa Catalina and San Clemente Islands. Think of that. So they're picking these up on radar above 80,000 feet. That is very, very high. Also, Senior Chief Kevin Day informed us that the ballistic missile defense radar systems had detected the UAPs in low Earth orbit before they dropped down to 80,000 feet. So think they also have contacts from the ballistic missile defense system coming into 80,000 feet. The objects would arrive in groups of 10 to 20 and subsequently drop down 28,000 feet with a several hundred foot variation and track south at a speed of about 100 knots. So they were tracked from space by the ballistic missile defense system, then they were tracked from 80,000 feet by the Spy-1 radar and down to 28,000 feet, where they would just hold altitude and cruise south at 100 knots, which is very slow up at 28,000 feet. There's very little air. Helicopters can't fly up there. Drones are going to have very big problems flying up there. So that is very strange. Periodically, the UAPs would drop down from 28,000 feet to sea level, estimated to be 50 feet, or under the surface in 0.78 seconds. So that is amazingly fast. That's what Trevor's talking about. How many G's does that actually take? If we scroll down here, a lot, okay? Upwards, so 5,000 G's. 5,000 G's is basically just the center of this curve, of this probability curve. And the low end is, 3,000 G's, which is unbelievable, okay? Unbelievable numbers. Normal G forces are 9 G's for any plane that they could possibly take. Humans can only take 9 G's. Planes rip apart at 15 G's. Thanks to Kevin Day for calling it out that day. Thanks to Trevor for speaking out and Jeremy Corbell for making that interview. Thanks as well to Kevin Knuth, Reale and Richard Powell from making these papers. So there's tons of evidence out there, guys. I made this video because I think we're focusing too much down into the little gotchas. I think the skeptics and debunkers are able to frame the narrative here. Realize there is a ton of other data. There is a ton of information. So my question is, what are those Tic Tacs doing? They're coming in contacts, in groups of 10 to 20 contacts, coming from space, going down to the surface, right, under the water. It sounds like, according to Trevor, is you have a saucer-shaped object coming out of the water, okay? And that could be what David Fravor saw. The Tic Tac was actually, during his engagement, what was the Tic Tac engaging with? Could it be this large flying saucer under the water? Trevor says can do crazy maneuvers and accelerate straight up. Amazing stuff, guys. Thanks for being here. Smash that like button if you do like this content, and then subscribe to get notifications in the future. We have an amazing project coming up. We really want to create decentralized science and make some breakthroughs for the good of humanity. Sign up for my patrons to get first dibs on any of those opportunities, or come to our Discord. Thanks to all my patrons. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all your support, and have a great week, everybody. Peace.